with our theme of band name origins.
Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project. I've provided security and transportation for some of the biggest names in the music industry.
I'm John. I've been a musician for over 20 years, playing everything from metal and punk to bluegrass and country.
We're bringing you a podcast about some of the weirdest myths and legends that the music industry has to offer. This is Tall Tales and Music Mythology.
Hey friends, this is Mary from the Mary Movement Podcast. We tell true stories that will inspire, encourage, and warm your heart. So join the movement at themarymovement.com.
Hey everybody, this is Big Randy with the Smarts Project, and this is part 2, and I ain't writing no damn intro for John on the second one, so anyway, here's Big John.
You get one.
That's all you get.
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. Yeah. So we're picking up where we left off last week with part 2. And we're going to dive back into the origins of bands and artist names. And first, we will start off with John.
Band names 2, Electric Boogaloo. Alrighty, so this is one I couldn't really find a good time to fit in anywhere in the last episode. So I'm just going to start with this because, you know, that's what I do. Death Cab for Cutie.
I've heard of them.
Yes, indie rock band started in the late 90s. Took their name from a 1967 song of the same name by some band with a ridiculous name I've never heard of. Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
Yep.
Fucking hipsters.
Probably got beards and drink IPAs.
No, I mean, Ben Gibbard, the singer of Death Cab for Cutie, was kind of like the stereotypical, like, second wave emo hipster poster boy of that movement. But you know, I mean, he was married to Zooey Deschanel, so you know, can't hate on him for that. Well, I can't hate on him for that, but you know what I mean.
There's so many other reasons to hate him on an individual basis.
But I do enjoy this band for the most part, and actually, our wedding. We had tried contacting a few different bands and artists, local artists, to play the show, to play music for our reception.
Right.
And long story short, none of them worked out. So Kristen suggested we just save the money that we would have been paying them anyways. And me and Jeff I played a couple of acoustic songs.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you hired Death Cab for Cutie.
No,
I thought that's where this was going.
God, no.
I was like, I got to see this video, bro.
No, but she actually did ask that I play a Death Cab for Cutie song at the reception, and the song "I Will Follow You Into the Dark." And I got really pissed off because my sound just cut out halfway through the second song that I played, so I didn't even end up playing that song.
Oh, no shit.
But to make it up for her, I later recorded a video of myself playing it and posted it on Facebook. So if you go digging through my Facebook timeline, you will find a video of me playing and singing that song.
Nice.
But yeah.
Motorhead.
Nice.
After his ejection from space rock icons Hawkwind. Yeah, frontman Lemmy Kilmister. His real name is Ian Fraser Kilmister. Mm-hmm. Founded in 1975, a new band name after the last song he wrote for Hawkwind. The name was derived from a slang term for an amphetamine user. Adding to the heavy metal umlaut was the very classic and the final touch. Hang on, I messed up my notes here. Okay, hang on, I'm coming back.
Everything you touch turns to suck.
Yeah. I have the opposite of whatever the Midas touch is. Whatever I touch turns to shit. Dress him up, take him out, send him to school, and he eats the books.
Oh, man, I do love Motorhead, though, I'm not gonna lie. Always, you can't think of Motorhead anymore without thinking of a scene from what was that, Airheads movie with Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler, and Michael McKean was in that one as well, where they ask Harold Ramis, who is playing a record executive who's actually a cop, like, who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God? Trick question. Lemmy is God.
Yeah. Good line.
Friggin' Harold Ramis, man. Miss that guy.
Yeah.
But let's see here. Let's see. So going from a great legendary band like Motorhead, we're going to go to a really terrible band from the early 2000s, Hoobastank, or Incubus Light, as I like to call them.
Oh, shit. No, you didn't.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Damn.
And to be fair, they did come up from the same scene as Incubus did, but their guitarist also used the same guitar and most of the same effects as the guitarist from Incubus did. So,
Incubus Light.
Yeah, but anywho, the band with possibly the dumbest name ever has a very anticlimactic reason behind their name.
Do tell.
The older brother of their singer, Doug Robb, is the vice president of BMW Motorcycles and lives in Germany. Okay, crazy. That blew my mind to learn this.
Didn't see that one coming.
No, I was like, what the hell? I never knew that. And there is a street near his house named Hooba Street, and apparently Doug couldn't pronounce it very well when he was a kid, so somehow it came out sounding like Hoobastank. So that's where they came up with this name from, and this somehow makes me like this band even less, which is no small feat. I mean,
you really got to go out of your way to make you hate something even more.
Bar was already pretty low. He exceeded that bar somehow.
Oh, that's so good.
So, yeah.
Moby.
Yes.
Richard Melville Hall took his performing name from the novel Moby Dick by Herman Melville, which was his great-great-granduncle.
Whoa, really? Herman Melville was Moby's great-great-uncle? Is that what you said?
Great-great-granduncle.
What?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Holy shit. So when I first started my first real job, we had a manager who worked there who was tall, super skinny, glasses, shaved head.
CIA.
And somebody was talking about him one day, and I didn't know what his name was. And they're like, yeah, the manager back there. I go, oh, the guy who looks like Moby? And they're like, wait, you already know his nickname's Moby? I had no clue his nickname was Moby. He just looks like Moby.
Oh, wow.
Looks like Moby.
Right.
Fun fact about Moby, too, he also sang for a hardcore punk band called Flipper in the 80s.
Stop it.
Their singer, whose name I can't remember, Flipper's not really a band all that worth remembering, aside from the side note of history that Moby sang for them briefly. Their singer got arrested, and they were supposed to play a show, and so Moby filled in as the singer of the band.
I'll be damned. That reminds me of Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians. Her fine ass. God damn it. She there was a band, New Bohemians, and they had relative local success. And then they were playing in a little coffee house, where everybody wears berets and shit or something. And anyway, bongos. And everything, cool. And anyways, somebody talked her into going up and singing with them, and that's how it started.
Interesting. Yeah. I did not know that.
And now you're a better man for knowing it.
I am indeed. My life is indelibly changed. Oh, was that your story?
Yeah, that was.
Shit, my bad. I'm sorry.
You know what that reminds me of? Did you ever hear that thing about Simon and Garfunkel?
Which one?
There's only one Simon and Garfunkel.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Which story?
Oh,
jeez, I'm sorry. My bad.
But they went up to receive some award because they don't like each other.
No.
They went up to receive some award. It was like a Legends Award or something like that. And so Art Garfunkel went up and he said, I know we don't agree on everything, but one thing I can definitely say about Paul Simon is he has indelibly changed my life forever.
Yeah.
And then Paul Simon went up there and he goes, yeah, Art's right. We really don't agree on hardly anything, but this is one thing that we agree on. I have indelibly changed his life forever.
Oh,
yeah.
That is what we call a dick move.
In the bird community.
In bird culture. A dick move. Man, that is savage. Paul Simon, savage.
You know what that reminds me? Whenever I read that sounds like if we ever made it big and we would accepted some award, that I would be Art Garfunkel and you would be Paul Simon, and then I wouldn't even figure it out that it was a slam until I got home. And then somebody would go, dude, you really acted cool after John slammed you like that. What? Yeah, he did a dick move. Like that. I read it. It was in a bird magazine.
Hey, I'm not a dick to people I like.
No, but that just sounds like something that you would say, and then I would be too dumb to figure it out. So, I got home that night and people are texting me.
Jeez, give me more credit than that. Come on, Randy. Come on. Oh shoot. Well, so I don't have something to tie into that one, but I will tie into my previous band that I mentioned. As I mentioned, Hoobastank sounded a little too much like Incubus, so Incubus themselves have a little bit of a backstory. An incubus is a male demon who seduces women.
Nice.
It is the male version of the succubus, which is also, the female demon who sucks the life out of a man, which I'm sure many of us, myself included, first learned of from South Park, when Chef almost marries a succubus.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Sorry. But that was how I figured out that incubus was what it is. I was like, wait, succubus, incubus, wait a second. And I looked it up from there, and sure enough, that's...
First time I ever seen Incubus was on the very first episode of Cribs I ever watched.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I started listening to them when, what was it, album? Make Yourself came out. I think it was like 2000 or 2001.
Everything I know about them, I saw on Cribs.
I used to love that band a lot back in the day, but, you kind of grow out of that stuff for the most part.
So AC/DC.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a good one. Some religious figures have suggested that the name stands for Antichrist, Devil's Children.
Yep. And one of the serial killers, I can't think, was it Ramirez? Yeah, it was Ramirez. Wore an AC/DC hat, or left an AC/DC hat behind at a crime scene, and that's when that theory of Antichrist, Devil's Children.
Because they don't believe in free advertisement. Right. Yeah. Or after Christ, the devil comes, or Antichrist, death to Christ. This was denied by rhythm guitarist Malcolm Young, who stated publicly, quote, "We write songs like this," talking about Highway to Hell, to make a point and give the listeners a picture in their minds.
Yeah.
Malcolm and his brother, lead guitarist, frontman Angus Young, which is arguably one of the best guitarists ever, said that the name's origins are from the back of their Sister Margaret's sewing machine. Their sister, not like, Sister Margaret from like a...
from a Catholic school, right?
Yeah.
Actual sister.
In fact, the acronym AC/DC stands for Alternating Current, Direct Current, which is used as an abbreviation to show that a given device can run on either type of electrical current. In any event, the Young brothers like the way the name symbolized the band's raw energy and power-driven performances, so the name stuck.
Bingo. Indeed. When I think of AC/DC, and most people, they think of Angus Young as well. I mean, no one thinks of...
Oh, he's kind of the mouth of the band, anyway.
He's the main icon. Really, you think of almost all their album covers.
You don't think of Brian.
No, hell no, or Bon even, really. And there's a lot of the albums, like I think it was Blow Up Your Video, where it's just him bursting through a television.
Yeah.
And Stiff Upper Lip is just him standing on like a pedestal or some shit.
Which is hilarious to find out that he's like, in real life, he's like the size of an action figure.
Like Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, 5'2", 5'3", something like that.
Tiny as hell.
I got sperm bigger than those guys. Go ahead.
So fitting in with somewhat satanic themed supposed band names, we have the band Sam Hain, which is Glenn Danzig's post-Misfits band before he just started going by Danzig all the time. So the Misfits were a punk band, one of the original, kind of founding punk bands.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. And their early stuff is great. I hate their later stuff after he left the band.
It's funny. I don't have a lot of people in my life that I've ever met that are like into punk like you are.
Right.
But they all say the same thing.
It's a marked difference. I mean, it's the newer stuff was bad. I hated the Misfits for a long time just because all I knew was the newer stuff.
Right.
So it wasn't until I heard like Where Eagles Dare and London Dungeon and stuff like this by the Misfits. Halloween is another one which relates to this. I was like, holy shit, this is actually really good. This is good music. But so immediately after Misfits broke up, because Glenn Danzig is an amazing singer and has made some great music over the years, but he is a dick.
I've heard.
Huge dick.
Isn't he a big muscle-bound guy?
Well, he's really short, but really muscle-bound.
Oh,
he's kind of like Stallone or something. You know what I'm saying?
With the Napoleon complex.
Yeah, kind of, because there was video of some band called the Northside Kings. Their singer got into an argument with Glenn Danzig backstage in like the mid or late 2000s, knocked Danzig out with one punch.
Stop it.
I mean, just out cold. Dude is done. Anywho.
You don't know. Maybe he decided to take a nap right then and there.
I am not talking shit about Glenn Danzig, because I do love Danzig.
That's for another episode.
No. I will not say. I loved me some early Danzig and Misfits, and Sam Hain, too, for that matter. So he formed this band immediately after Misfits' breakup. And interestingly enough, Sam Hain actually evolved into his eponymous band, Danzig. Rick Rubin wanted to sign just Danzig himself, but Glenn Danzig refused and said the only way he'd sign is if the whole band came with him.
Wow, that's class.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah. So the band, Sam Hain, which isn't actually the correct pronunciation, I found out apparently, and I'll get to that in a second. They took its name from the Gaelic festival of the same name, which celebrated the end of the harvest and the beginning of the new year. So it was typically celebrated around October 31st or November 1st. It was found amongst the islands in and around England, like Scotland, Wales, Isle of Man, stuff like that. And I learned while researching this that apparently the correct Gaelic pronunciation is Samhain.
Oh, nice.
Even though it's spelled Samhain. And Danzig himself even sings it that way in one of the band's songs, which I thought I'd heard all of Sam Hain's catalog, but I either just didn't pay close enough attention to the actual lyrics or somehow just missed that song. But, yeah, really good band, really interesting. And Samhain, I guess is how you pronounce the actual festival, is what eventually evolved into Halloween.
I'll be damned.
So that's where that came.
You know, I don't know a whole lot about Danzig, really just from the band Danzig.
Right.
And, you know, that was during the, MTV and the VH1 heyday.
Right, because 87 was when his first album as Danzig came out.
Oh, okay. But I know that he was, like, on the video, because, again, I feel...
Mother video?
Might have been, but like I always feel compelled to throw out the disclaimer that, you know, just because I've worked for bands and artists, you know, I still have the same taste as a consumer.
Right, exactly.
I've never been cursed with any kind of talent or education like you know. So really, I'm just a consumer that's met a couple of people. But, you know, looking at the videos, you know, he put on a hell of an impressive show.
Oh, dude,
know?
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a freaking monster. Looked like a goddamn Viking up there, you know.
I wouldn't mess with him. He'd
I
kick shit out of me.
I wouldn't mess with Carrot Top.
Well, Carrot Top's ripped now.
Not now. Before he was.
Fat again?
Well, no, he's not fat, but he's still in really good shape.
Okay,
but, he was roiding up for a while.
Yeah, the dude got huge.
Yeah, he got pretty cut, and then after a while, you know, he didn't like roid out per se, but he noticed that it was changing his ways of thinking and whatnot, and he was like, "Oh, fuck this."
Well, he got really dark there for a while because you could tell that it was really because I mean he gets lambasted in the comic community for good reason.
Sure.
I'm sorry, prop comedy's terrible,
right.
But I think he really took that shit personally for a long time, and I think that's what made him bulk up like that.
I'm sure, yeah.
I think he got tired of getting picked on and getting made fun of, and wanted to try to intimidate people.
Yeah, but I mean, whenever you look like a roided up Wendy's, you know,
that's a very apt description.
Yeah, I mean, I've never met the guy, but I've heard great things about him, like as a person. Yeah. I've never heard anything bad about him. Anything bad I've ever heard about him is always, you know, because he's a prop comic.
Right.
And like even from comedians, there's been a couple of times that I drove comedians and to hear them, because whenever you do security for people or you drive them, you don't ask them, you know, you talk about anything but whatever it is they do.
Absolutely.
So, you know, to hear them talk amongst themselves.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, or talking to fans or whatever, you know, you hear Carrot Top's name come up and he's really respected in the comedic community, but that other people that were prop comics, they hate his ass because they put him out of work.
Oh,
or he put them out of work.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Because I can remember there was another prop comic from the early 90s named Marty Putz that he went nowhere after Carrot Top came out. Like he was starting to build up some popularity, and then that just put an end to his career.
And of course, being having that cursed last name.
Well, and that Putz. Yeah, exactly.
That probably didn't help much.
I'm guessing he probably chose that name ironically.
I'm hoping. I mean, well, I'm hoping. I don't know. That's horrible decision making, but. Queensryche.
Oh, there we go.
In 1981, the band named The Mob put together sufficient funds to record a demo tape with 4 songs. Queen of the Reich being the first of those. At the urging of the new manager, the Mob, inspired by the opening song on their demo, changed their name to Queensryche.
So that's another band we can add to that special.
They were the band to apply. They were the first band to apply the heavy metal umlaut to the letter Y. As vocalist Jeff Tate, which spells it like your buddy Jeff, as vocalist Jeff Tate later joked, quote, "The umlaut over the Y has haunted us for years. We spent years trying to explain how to pronounce it."
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's funny. So I've got one here that kind of ties into last episode a little bit with talking about Black Flag. Band called L7. You ever heard of this band? Yeah. The kind of the proto-Riot Girl act. They actually take their name from the 50s slang for square. Just like the movie The Sandlot, L7 weenie. So, but an interesting fact I learned that I did not know about. I knew about this band just from, actually I think I learned about them from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. There was a radio station you could listen to when you're driving around, and L7 was one of the songs. One of the bands that played on it. But guitarist, vocalist Susie Gardner of L7 actually recorded backing vocals for Black Flag's song Slip It In. I did not know that. And another piece of trivia that ties to that, the song's opening drum beat, the song Slip It In, the opening drum beat on that song was copied beat for beat by Dave Grohl on the Queens of the Stone Age song Song for the Dead off of their 2002 album Songs for the Deaf.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So, nice.
Interesting little piece of trivia there.
Pet Shop Boys.
Nice.
Starting out, the duo called themselves West End because of their love of London's West End, which I have to say, after experiencing it, I don't know about now, but up till about 20 years ago, whenever I was there, it's a different world, even than the rest of London.
Is it really?
Yeah. And I mean that in a good way.
Okay.
But if back in the day, whenever Times Square was horrible, if you made it kind of R-rated, right. That's the way West End is. It was a lot more people friendly, but I mean, you still had some screwed up shit that happened.
Right.
So,
so that's why they had the song about West End boys.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Or West End girls.
West End,
right. East End boys and West End girls.
But later they came up with the name Pet Shop Boys, a name derived by some friends who worked in a pet shop in Ealing, which was an accompanying town, kind of like a suburb kind of sort of.
Gotcha.
They said the Pet Shop Boys, quote, sounded like an English rap group.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the name Boys on the end of it there, I can see that.
And, I have to say, and I don't think there's too many people more qualified to say this, but that is probably one of the whitest bands I've ever met.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So to say
such crackers.
that sounds like an English rap group. That is just adorable.
The name definitely belies the sound.
They really think that they sounded like Public Enemy or like Wu-Tang or something like that.
But I mean, I agree with him on the title. I mean, think about Beastie Boys, so I could see them saying the name sounds like it, but that band could not be further.
Yeah, right. Man, those guys are the poster child for the Klan.
They are my God. So white. They are flagrantly Caucasian.
Yeah, they need a parking pass.
Man. So, mentioned Queens of the Stone Age at the end of the last one, but actually I want to talk about the band Kyuss, which is Josh Homme's pre-Queens of the Stone Age band. This seminal stoner rock band was originally called Katzenjammer, which is apparently German slang for hangover.
No shit, I didn't know that.
When they originally formed the band in 87-ish, that's what they were originally going to call it, but then they changed it to Sons of Kyuss, which are, oh my God, this is nerdy as hell, undead creatures who serve Kyuss, a member of the worm god's worm-spawn legions in Dungeons & Dragons.
Oh, God.
I took that last part almost exactly verbatim from Wikipedia because Dungeons & Dragons is a bridge too far even for my nerd.
That's, what do they call literary birth control?
I hate Dungeons & Dragons. I had a friend who tried to get me into that in like 3rd or 4th grade, and I was like, wait, what? We just talk about what we're doing? They have this thing called video games.
You can actually do shit.
Yeah. But so then, obviously, they shortened the band name to just Kyuss instead of Sons of Kyuss. But, interesting. Little bit of tidbit there.
Pink Floyd.
Oh, good. I was hoping you were going to do this one.
When in 1964, T-Set found themselves on the same bill as another band with the same name. Go figure. Ain't that some shit? Two bands named T-Set.
Well, they're British, right?
Well, yeah, but still, man.
So it's like naming your American band Coffee, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, or Merca. Two bands called Merca. Yeah. The leader and vocalist Syd Barrett came up with an alternative name on the spur of the moment, choosing the Pink Floyd sound after two American blues musicians, Pink Anderson and Floyd Council. Pink Floyd was originally called the T-Set, but
That's so funny.
Oh, did I write the same thing down? Yeah, I wrote the same thing.
Two.
Yeah, wow, man, I'm rocking today. But the band decided to change their name to the Pink Floyd Sound immediately. Later shortened it to Pink Floyd after seeing the names Pink Anderson and Floyd Council on the notes of a Blind Boy Fuller album. It's probably all for the best because would you ever go see a movie called The T-Set's The Wall?
Right. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't know they were called the T-Set originally. Oh my God, that is hilarious.
I really can't say that they're like, manly men, but it's not like they're like Glenn Danzig or something. But I mean, T-Set is just kind of...
That's like something I could see, like a band that sounds like Air Supply.
Or Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But now, not Pink Floyd. I mean, obviously their music's not like super heavy or anything like that, but especially Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall and stuff like that. That's trippy shit. That's great music. I love
Absolutely,
Pink Floyd.
classic.
Yeah. Listened to a lot of Pink Floyd in college.
The T-Set?
That's a weird name, man.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, even their first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, by T-Set. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, here's another short and sweet one, also a British band. The band Radiohead took their name from a Talking Heads song of the same name, albeit 2 words instead of 1 word like the band uses. But thought that was interesting. And you're talking about 2, fairly experimental rock bands, so it's cool that they draw, a parallel in that regard as well.
You did them because I almost did them.
Oh yeah, I love Radiohead.
Yeah. Well, and I almost did them because I really like Talking Heads.
Oh hell yeah, Talking Heads is great.
Oh
man.
yeah,
I mean
they're one of those bands. Like to me, I never like I like them. The things that I really like, but for the most part, I don't understand them.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but like there's like a handful of songs that I'm like, that's so the shit, And I always team it up with like the video, like where he wore that oversized suit.
Right.
So
Psycho Killer is such a great song, and there's a ridiculous amount of their songs that are great songs.
A really influential band.
Oh yeah, I love the band. And a couple weeks ago we went and saw St. Vincent in concert. I mentioned her. The first time I heard of her was when she was doing a project with the singer of Talking Heads,
right?
Back in 2012. So,
David Byrne,
exactly.
So, yeah, I'm more, my taste kind of sides with Doug Stanhope, like I hear a song on a commercial and I'll go, oh, hey, I like that, cha, 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 don't you know that I love you? And I'll look it up on, like I'll SoundCloud it, and then look it up on iTunes and download it. Blue Oyster Cult.
There we go.
The name came from a 1960s poem written by manager Sandy Pearlman. It was part of his Imaginos poetry, later used more extensively in their 1988 album Imaginos. Pearlman had also came up with the band's earlier name, Soft White Underbelly, from a phrase used by Winston Churchill in describing Italy during World War II.
Yep.
In Pearlman's poetry, Blue Oyster Cult was a collection of aliens who had collected secretly to guide Earth's history. Another myth is that one of the band's members was doodling and playing around with eventually found out that Blue Oyster Cult is an anagram for Cully Stout beer, which apparently is the beer that they used to drink heavily in that area. Keyboardist Alan Lanier may have been the first musician to come up with the idea of gratuitous umlauts. But the rock critic Richard Meltzer came to have suggested it after Pearlman came up with the name, reportedly because the Wagnerian aspect of metal.
Oh, again, that's
Wagnerian. Yeah. Dumb white guy.
Nah, you good, dude. I just like busting your balls. I
just so deserve it.
No. But that's funny about the Blue Oyster Cult name. I never knew how that came about.
And they were the first ones to use the umlaut.
Right. Now that, I didn't know if they were the very first ones or not, but I knew they were at least one of the early ones.
Sure.
That there's no way that dude was sober when he came up with that. No way. Yeah. It's like the Bill Hicks comment about music and drugs. He's like, if you don't think that all these what did he say exactly?
Oh, I remember that.
All those bands that made all that music that you love, really fucking high on drugs. That's what it was.
And I think he said something along the lines of, if you took away every song you ever listened to that was influenced by drugs, you would have something like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse or some shit like that. Yeah, it was really basic.
Exactly, but Bill Hicks, man, miss that dude.
Yeah.
A little bit better speaker than a comedian, so to speak, but still hilarious. And
probably in the same realm as like, who's the guy that did the 7 words you can't see?
Oh, George Carlin. George Carlin's the man.
Yeah, good speaker. More of a speaker than a comedian.
Well, because he conveyed a lot of interesting pseudo-philosophical and good socio-political commentary and stuff like that.
And if someone was to do that but get their material from other comedians, it would be, who's the guy that... Carlos Mencia.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Bill Hicks, somebody stealing his act, Dennis Leary.
Dennis
Leary pretty much wholesale stole Bill Hicks' act for No Cure for Cancer, I think was the Dennis Leary special.
I didn't know that.
Bill Hicks died hating Dennis Leary because of that. Yeah.
Because he probably made more money off of that than Bill Hicks did.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the gist of it there.
Wow.
Yeah, whatever. Anywho, the guy did release a song called I'm an Asshole, so I guess it was truth in advertising. I find Dennis Leary funny for the most part, but that was a dick move, no doubt. So, anywho, back to the band names. Smashing Pumpkins. This is going to be a long addition to the list of grunge band names that I've been talking about.
Billy Corgan was recently on Rogan, too.
I did see that, and they sell his signature guitar at More Music here in Evansville.
I'll be there.
Which he's with Reverend Guitars now. He used Fender Stratocasters for years, but now he has his own signature line with Reverend Guitars. So, actually, the band's name is not a nod to Halloween-themed mischief. It is actually slang for great tits. As in, Smashing Pumpkins.
No, shut up! Like if Austin Powers said it.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's
so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm
Good
so
stuff.
stealing that now.
Good stuff.
Queen, originally called Smile, singer Freddie Mercury came up with the new name for the band. To the band members, Queen sounded regal and universal and simple and humorous in a risque way. Later on, Mercury's declared homosexuality made the name even more risque, which really, and I'm really hearkening back to some early days for me because that is just maybe like a half a generation before my time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was old enough. I think it was the perfect time to be introduced to Queen.
Right, because you were getting into them right as they were branching into the more experimental side of things.
Exactly.
Because their early stuff is more straight-ahead hard rock, especially songs like Tie Your Mother Down and stuff like that.
Right. And whenever they started getting into more operatic stuff.
Bringing ballet to the masses, as Freddie Mercury said.
Oh, is that right? I never heard that. That's proper, though. But I don't know if he ever declared his homosexuality. He declared his bisexuality.
Right, correct.
And I think that society has boiled it down to that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was he mostly preferred men, I'm sure, but he may have been bisexual as well. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I remember specifically that he was saying. Of course, it was a different time back then.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
homosexuality was still literally illegal in London, in England.
In the United States, there was some places that it was illegal, but I think that he more or less declared that he was bisexual, and then our society in the United States, we're still holding over from that puritanical bullshit.
No doubt.
Yeah, so I think they boiled that down, and they kind of like, well, no, this is what the words came out of your mouth, not what you said, what we said.
Right. And he may have just been doing it to keep from getting, because that would have been a death sentence back then. Really, in many ways, people would have just Which, whatever.
And what's funny is where he's from. I think it's Zanzibar, where he's from.
Yeah, he's not from England originally.
No. But where he's from, to this day, I believe it's still illegal to be gay or bisexual there. But their largest branch of tourism is people going there to see where he was born.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That is poetic justice.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. That is.
Love that.
Yeah, because they're gritting their teeth as they're smiling, welcoming people off the plane.
I'm no social justice warrior or anything like that by any means, but man, it makes me so pissed off.
That makes you sleep better at night.
Well, yeah, it angers me when someone hates someone just for who they love. Even fuck that. That's stupid.
Right.
It's dumb. Doesn't affect you. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
This is, I think, single-handedly the most F-bombs we've ever dropped in a show. But
I think we've reached a new high.
We're doing it live. We're doing it live. So, Soundgarden, another grunge band, because I'm keeping that train a-rolling. This band, I actually did not know that there was a little bit more to it. I thought just Soundgarden sounded like a cool name. It's a garden sound.
Is that the Chicka Cherry Cola people?
Jesus Christ, no, it's not that for the second time.
Goddamn.
It's the guy who killed himself recently, Chris Cornell.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's Savage Garden.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, that was a real question. I wasn't trying to...
I know.
Okay, go ahead, as you were. It's a cool song, though, fuck you.
So they actually got their name from a wind channeling pipe structure on the NOAA, the weather, the organization that monitors the weather, National Organization of, I don't remember
something. Yeah,
exactly. They have a property next to Magnuson Park in Seattle, and so they had this pipe sculpture that would ring out at different frequencies when wind would move through it.
Yeah,
and the sculpture was titled "A Soundgarden," 3 separate words. So kind of like Radiohead with.
Yeah.
The Talking Head song, they just made it into one word.
I'll be damned, so that park is still there, too.
Is there? Well, I forgot you were in Seattle for a long time. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, me and my homies Rod T and Tony Lucero and all them.
That is still there then.
Yeah.
No kidding. You actually
James
know
Dwyer.
what this...
Yeah, you could see it from the interstate. I forgot the name of it, and I know that there's people screaming into their iPod right now, but I can't remember the name of it. But it's in North Seattle, just before you cross over the bridge into. I can't remember. But it's got. I'm so glad I can't see the people's faces that are screaming into their radios right now.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's still there. Nice. Elvis Costello, when Declan Patrick McManus was signed to Stiff Records, which is an awesome name for a label.
Yeah.
His new manager, Jake Riviera, managed a name change using Elvis Presley's first name as his maternal grandmother's maiden name to form Elvis Costello.
I did not know that.
I thought that was his original name.
Same here. I love Elvis Costello.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. He almost single-handedly popularized the Fender guitar, the Jazzmaster, that's a copy of a Jazzmaster.
Oh, no kidding!
Over there, yeah.
Veronica, that was that was one of the songs that really because whenever I was younger, I used to be on a clogging team and I used to square dance and
you told me that,
things like that. And all I ever listened to was old country, and like Hank Sr. and stuff like that. And Veronica was one of the songs, that and Boston, Don't Hold Back. Those were just a handful of songs that got me out of that and was listening to other genres. Yeah, so Veronica's always got a special. Plus, it was just so clean and
right.
Not antiseptic, because that has a negative connotation. But it was just the sound was just so clean.
Song.
Yeah.
Well, that's like tying it into my childhood to a degree too. I listened to a lot of Weird Al when I was a kid,
right?
And his band frequently covers the Elvis Costello song Radio Radio when something goes wrong. During their live shows, they'll just break into that because of Elvis Costello being told by Lorne Michaels when they played on SNL that he could not play the song Radio Radio, and he did anyways.
Oh, no kidding. So, why couldn't he play it?
Because it's critical of like mainstream media and stuff like that.
They didn't want to step on no toes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. All right, so I have one last grunge band to cover here. The band Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, yeah.
The band was originally named Mighty Joe Young, which I had not heard this part before, but found out there had been a blues guitarist of the same name who took his name from the 1949 horror movie of that same title, which I believe got a remake sometime in the 80s or 90s, which is probably why Stone Temple Pilots originally chose that name. Mm-hmm. So they then switched to just the abbreviation STP, taken from, the motor oil brand. Mm-hmm. Apparently they used, I don't know how many of the band, because the guitarist and bassist are brothers.
Oh, okay.
Dean DeLeo, and I can't think of the other DeLeo brother's name, but whatever. They used to stick STP stickers on their bikes when they were kids, just because it was cool.
Right.
So they kind of had to come up with a backronym, for what that stood for. Yeah. And original ideas were, and I hadn't heard of this one, Stinky Toilet Paper.
Oh, that's
hadn't heard
funny.
that one. The one I had heard though was Shirley Temple's Pussy.
Oh, that's funny.
So
wow.
I had heard that one before, and apparently, so like when Stone Temple Pilots first came out, they were kind of just like a ripoff of Pearl Jam.
Oh, no kidding.
Scott Weiland even sang with like the kind of Eddie Vedder voice in some songs.
That's incredible because he had like one of the best voices ever.
And they evolved into a much better band. But I can remember reading an interview with Nirvana, or it was an article about Nirvana from the early 90s. And apparently before one show, Dave Grohl yelled out, "Stone Gossard Pirates!" which was making fun of Pearl Jam's lead guitar or rhythm guitarist Stone Gossard and Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, that's funny.
So I thought that was hilarious. Apparently, bands in the Seattle grunge scene hated Stone Temple Pilots when they first came out.
No kidding.
Because they viewed them as just kind of... It's the same thing with Smashing Pumpkins, actually, too, which they were from Chicago, or a suburb of Chicago, Foxwood or something like that. But people viewed them as just kind of opportunists.
Right.
Just jumping on the bandwagon of the grunge, that grunge gravy train there.
Oh, that's making money. Let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, both bands ended up, showing that they did have merit.
Right.
But, whatever.
In the long run,
yeah.
STP came through.
Yeah, exactly. Because, they definitely evolved. And Scott Weiland had a great voice. He just was not using it at first. Really.
I heard some stories that he was kind of a douche nozzle, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember hearing he died of a heroin overdose. I was like, oh, that took long enough. It sounds terrible. But I can remember the dude, 20 years ago, 96, getting arrested for heroin possession, saying that he, after he got out of jail, he locked himself in his house for months on end, and the only person he ever saw was his heroin dealer.
Wow.
So, I mean, the poor guy, I felt bad for the dude just because he struggled with addiction. I mean, his whole adult life, ever since the band started. So it was sad to see, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things. It's like where, a grandparent is sick for years on end and they die.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, you almost feel some relief for him.
Yeah. I know he was 194, but
that dude had a hard. He might have only been in his mid 40s or early 50s when he died, but he lived hard.
Sure. Yeah, he had the life of a 90-year-old.
Yeah, no doubt.
So the Beatles, which. Yeah. Whenever you told me about this, like, it was just in passing, like, everybody knows this. Dude, I was like, wait a minute. It's like finding out that, what? RuPaul's not a chick? Get out of here.
There was an Onion article about that, too. Like, local man finds out that the Beatles spelled their name.
Right.
I'll go into it.
Oh, wow, that messed me up. And I actually... This is actually the reason why I wanted to do this special. This is the impetus of the whole thing.
Okay.
The original name, with its unusual spelling, is usually credited to John Lennon, who said the name was a combination wordplay on the insects Beatles with Beetles as a non-compliment to Buddy Holly's band, the Crickets. And the word beat, B-E-A-T. Yeah. He also later said it was a joke, meaning a pun on beat less, B-E-A-T-L-E-S-S.
Now, that I had not heard.
Oh.
Okay.
In addition to being a fan of the Crickets, John Lennon is paraphrased as having said, quote, "If you turn it around, it was les beat," which sounded French and cool.
That's funny.
Before you start writing furious comments, stand back and think about the stupid band name. The Beatles is a dumb pun. That's all. Exactly. They took the idea of naming themselves after an insect like the Crickets, but changed the spelling for a pun on musical beats. It's simple as that. There's no deep hidden meaning. There's no wisdom here.
Helter Skelter.
Just a pun that might have provoked a very mild chuckle back in 1962. We accept it because we've heard it 50,000 times, and they're the best group in history. But but that doesn't mean that they don't have a stupid name.
Yeah. There you go. So I've got one here. There's a indie rock band called Spoon. I think they formed in the early 2000s, something like that. I first heard them probably around the mid to late 2000s. But they actually took their name from a song by the 70s avant-garde / krautrock band Can.
Krautrock, that's a great name.
Can had a theme to a German film called Das Messer. Or I don't know. I don't speak Nazi, so I'm not really sure how exactly that's pronounced.
Oh, how dare you!
But in Freedom, that translates to Jagged Edge.
Freedom. That's it. This will be our last episode before the FCC closes us.
I always have to joke about German being Nazi, but yeah. So Spoon got their name from a band called Can, which I'll mention them briefly in my next one as well. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Quiet Riot. Thanks to a radio interview with the band in 1979, we know the name Quiet Riot came about. Singer Kevin DuBrow, which I actually met him years ago. This was in, I think I told the story that I was working in Dover, Delaware at a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
He was there.
Oh, no kidding. The one where you made the highlights the next day?
Yeah, on ESPN.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was there. He actually went around to the different little garage things.
The pits.
What do you call them? The pits, yeah. Mm-hmm. He came around to the different pits and was talking to the drivers and the managers. Nice. Apparently he's really respected in the racing world.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, singer Kevin DuBrow was talking to Rick Parfitt. I've never heard that name, and I hope I'm not butchering it, of the British band Status Quo. And that's a band that that's a band I actually heard of back in the 80s. And I should have done some research on that one. But anyway, told Parfitt that he intended to call the band Little Women, to which Parfitt replied that he himself prefer a band with the name of Quite Right. But because the Londoner Rick pronounced the two words with a heavy Cockney accent, the American thought that Parfitt had said Quiet Riot. So it was actually made by mistake.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Misunderstanding.
My buddy Ryan, we would sometimes mock some of the things our parents would say. And he told us the story that one time his dad said, while he was drunk, that Quiet Riot could have been the next Beatles.
Oh, shit. Oh, wow.
That cracked me up. That was so
I even
funny.
think that Kevin DuBrow would have laughed at that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last one there, I was talking about the band Can, and their influence on a band called Spoon. But there was another band that was often compared to them when they first started out, and I figured I'd leave this for the end since I talk about this band way too much, I feel. But Queens of the Stone Age. So,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, right. So, whatever. Give me shit. I don't care. The band was originally called Gamma Ray, actually, and they even released an EP under that name before getting a cease and desist order from a German power metal band of the same name. Power metal being typically like bands that sing about dragons and orcs and shit like that.
Okay. I thought you meant like Autograph or something.
No. Like usually the singer has like that super like Bruce Dickinson, Iron Maiden kind of voice, typically. But singer Josh Homme said of the name that kings would be too macho. The kings of the Stone Age wear armor and have axes and wrestle. The queens of the Stone Age hang out with the kings of the Stone Age's girlfriends while they wrestle. Rock should be heavy enough for the boys and sweet enough for the girls. That way everyone's happy and it's more of a party. Kings of the Stone Age is too lopsided. The Stone Age part, though, came from Chris Goss, their producer, who was lamenting the fact that Josh insisted on using vintage equipment, like recording to tape instead of hard drives and stuff like that. It's like, you're in the fucking Stone Age, you know what I'm saying? So that's where the
that's funny.
From.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Deep Purple.
Oh, yeah.
A word in the Guinness Book of World Records listing the band previously known as Roundabout as the loudest band in the world, and apparently it still holds true now.
Really?
Yeah, in concert. Yeah. I could be wrong on that, but the last I read, which was probably about a year or two, it was...
How many decibels they hit?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't. I heard it. I'm old and I forget shit.
I can remember like when bands like I hate Korn, but they were one of the bands that were hitting like almost 150 decibels.
Oh, no
live.
kidding.
Yeah, stupid loud.
I don't know if they got that loud.
This band might have been louder. I have no freaking clue. I'm not saying that.
But they must have been a climax in the careers of these fanatical rockers from England, Hertford. So it seems odd that the group took their band name from a Velvet song by Nino Tempo and April Stevens from 1963. The song was called Deep Purple. Huh. But perhaps that is not so strange after all. Band member Ritchie Blackmore's grandmother, some say it was his mother, depending on what story that you read, but most contemporaries of the time say it was his grandmother, was crazy about the sweet voice sound of Tempo and Stevens. A few skeptics of the band refers to hard drugs, specifically cocaine. When heated, it turns a deep purple smoke.
Huh.
Didn't know that.
No, me neither.
That seems like you have to have an incredible quantity of that in order to feel the desire to experiment, with different things,
Right.
I've never been in that tax bracket.
So. No. So we've only got 2 bands left here, but don't really have anything that ties into either one of them, so I'm just going to go with this one here. The Wallflowers, keeping this one short and sweet, actually was taken from a relatively obscure song of the same name by Bob Dylan, the father of Wallflower singer Jacob Dylan.
Yeah.
So, not a whole lot on that one. Just pretty short and sweet.
I got quite a few more, but I'm only going to do a few. Is that the last one you got?
No, I got one more after this.
Okay.
I was going to say, I think you should still have a couple more.
I got a lot, but just shut me up whenever. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
The members of the band Creedence Clearwater Revival formed around John and Tom Fogerty, ignored names as Muddy Rabbit, Gossamer Wump, and Creedence Newball Creedence Newball and the Ruby, before making their preference known for Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Interesting.
The part name can be explained as follows. Creedence Newball was a friend of Tom Fogerty. His confidence-building first proved to be irresistible to the band. Clearwater is a transparent reference to the television commercials for Olympia beer. I didn't know that.
No, me neither.
In which the eco-friendly term clear water was used, while the cans and bottles carried the punchline, "It's the water." Revival was finally added to indicate that it was about a restart. A number of the bands had been active before as the Gollywogs until military service drove them apart.
Yep. That's interesting. Like, I tell you what, I was most surprised about to learn about CCR was that they weren't from like Louisiana.
Right.
They kind of coined the term swamp rock
right.
for the music, and they're all from California.
Yeah.
What? That's so strange. I love that band. I will not say a bad word about CCR, but
and as big of a dick as John Fogerty sounds, I'd love to still meet him.
Oh yeah, and I mean most of the time the things he's a dick about, I'm like, I don't blame you. Like,
right, it's like music related stuff.
Exactly. He takes his music very seriously.
Right. I respect that.
Exactly. So the last band that I've got, which I thought I had more, because I think we counted before we started and we were only one band apart, so maybe we got off at some point.
Oh,
whatever. Last band I've got listed.
That's why we're not a math podcast.
There you go. Last band I've got listed here is the band Tool. And it is just what you think it is. It's about dicks.
Shut up, is that right?
Yeah, although they've been kind of coy about it in the past a few times, just to mess with it. A lot of bands mess with the press. Like we talked about Eddie Vedder earlier, and obviously Josh Homme has a propensity for doing that as well. But Adam Jones of Tool once went on this rambling diatribe about saying that the band is a, quote, tool of lacrimology. Lacrimology being some pseudoscientific concept of philosophy or philosophy of some sort based on crying.
What?
Yeah, they like to mess with people.
Wow,
a lot. So, but it's totally about dicks. It's just a dick.
Well, a band kind of related to Tool, Led Zeppelin.
Hey, there we go. Yeah,
originally they've
covered a Led Zeppelin song.
Shut Your Face. Is that right?
No Quarter. I think it was No Quarter.
Wow, no kidding.
They covered, really good.
Originally, they were the New Yardbirds, but the name lasted only for a few months. When guitarist Jimmy Page was considered forming a new group, the Who's drummer Keith Moon, who obviously was in the project together with Jeff Beck and John Entwistle, suggested the name Led Zeppelin, L-E-A-D, Led Zeppelin. Keith Moon himself got the phrase from John Entwistle's term for a bad gig, describing it as, quote, going over, some sources say going down, like a Led Zeppelin. The group adopted the name, deliberately dropping the A in lead to prevent people from pronouncing it as lead.
Nice.
Yeah, because dumb white people.
Exactly. White people.
White people. What is that from?
The internet.
Oh, okay. Aerosmith. Drummer Joey Kramer used to write Aerosmith the way that we've seen Aerosmith, A-E-R-O, and then Smith, on his high school notebooks because he thought it sounded cool. When he proposed the name to the group, the rest of them said, "What? You mean like the book that we read in high school?" And what they're talking about was the 1925 book Aerosmith, A-R-R-O-W-S-M-I-T-H.
Right,
by Sinclair Lewis. Kramer responded, "No, A-E-R-O Smith."
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
According to a source of questionable standing, their band name means someone producing hot air. A more devoted fan holds the opinion that the band translates air into sound. That sounds a bit better, but is still nonsense.
Right,
There's also a book, Aerosmith, by Sinclair Lewis, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that before.
However, drummer Joey Kramer denies this. He claims that have heard the Harry Nilsson's Aerial Ballet, and that's A-E-R-I-A-L, ballet, while still in school. After playing around a bit with these words, he came up with Aerosmith, like we're used to saying.
Interesting.
Only sometime later, after he had formed the band with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, the name came back into the picture, assuming that it was a reference to the book called Aerosmith with A-R-R, which is compulsory reading matter in the old school days.
Huh. Yeah, I've never even heard of that book. So that's
Me neither. Yeah. I got a lot more, but I'm only I've probably got like 20 more, but I'm only gonna do a few of them that were really good. Asia, a sort of super group, as a matter of fact, because the founding members came from bands such as Wishbone Ash, Yes, and The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
That's the other one. Okay.
There are bands called America, Antarctica, Europe, and so why not add a band to the list called Asia? Be that as it may, the men of Asia did not name their group after a part of the world, but after a once very attractive but increasingly disappearing behind tasteless tattoos daughter of Italian horror movie director Dario Argento, who is called Asia Argento.
Okay, I've heard of that name before. You have a framed Asia poster? How hard did the people at the poster framing store laugh at you? 40-year-old virgin.
Bachman Turner Overdrive.
There we go.
The boogie rock band from Winnipeg, Manitoba has Randy Bachman and Fred Turner as its leaders. Overdrive was the title of a trucker's magazine that was lying around somewhere while the band was on tour. They found Overdrive in the highest gear, which is what overdrive means, very suitable because they were changing up from country rock to hard rock.
Well, that's kind of strange because, I mean, Randy Bachman was already in the Guess Who before that. I mean, he was already playing rock,
right? But
before that,
right? But he was the only one because they were going from country rock.
So the rest of the band was doing that,
right?
Well, and plus, I've always assumed that the term overdrive because that's what you call distortion that's generated just strictly by the amplifier or a pedal that overdrives. The gain section of an amp. That's how you get distortion.
Oh, I never would have thought of that.
Sense. Yeah, that's what I just always assumed. I didn't know there was a magazine called that because Randy Bachman actually really pioneered some guitar techniques, amplifier techniques with the Guess Who. He actually was taking one amp, running out of it into another amp, and he was frying amps like crazy.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's how he got the tone on American Woman. It was like everyone was like, "How the hell is he making this sound?"
No kidding.
He was plugging one amp. He was plugging his guitar into one amp, running out the back of that amp into the front end, like the instrument input of another amp.
Right.
So he was running that, it was like overdriving the signal into the second amp, and that's what gave it that sound. But that will fry the living shit out of an amp so quickly.
Would it last an entire song, you think?
Oh yeah, and I mean he was like frying them like every show.
Oh my god!
So he actually worked with some local amplifier repairman to make that same thing, but that it wouldn't fry the first amp. So and then
I had no idea. No shit.
Years later, a now defunct guitar pedal company called, I think it was Tech 21, if I remember correctly, they made an American Woman Overdrive, and it was made to simulate the sound that he got just from a pedal instead of running one amp into another amp. So,
well, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Bananarama.
Now for something completely different.
Yeah, right. Bananarama. Not just any female band. By the way, I used to love these women. Holy cow. That tall girl that was in there, I don't know any of their names. I don't think I ever did, but holy shit. Of course, that was back in the 80s. I was ass deep in the marketing. Not just any female band, if only because the London Trio made a habit of singing not many-voiced, but in unison, even including the background group. Yeah. The band name of the punk and new wave inspired women was the fruit of crossbreeding, the title of a children's TV program, The Banana Splits, and the title of the modest Roxy Music hit record, Pajama-Rama.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, you don't even hear from them anymore. I don't even know if they're together anymore, but I thought that was a neat little story. One of my favorites, Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Boom. Yeah, I know this one.
The name is mocking a tribute to guitarist Gary Rossington's and drummer Bob Burns' gym coach at Robert E. Lee High School, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Skinner would strictly enforce the school's dress code, which did not allow the boys to have long hair touching the collar or sideburns below the ears. I specifically remember... I want to say it was either on MTV or VH1, some kind of show that they interviewed that guy.
Oh, really? Are you serious?
I don't know if they interviewed that guy or there was an interview and they many years before and they took that interview and they played it. But he just looked like a prick.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, he was, product of the times, obviously.
Exactly. But, I mean, they even named, I think it was their second album, they named it pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Right. The band, he detested it the whole time.
Oh, I bet.
The original band was called the Noble Five, and the year after it was changed to My Backyard.
Interesting.
In 1970, it was obvious the group needed a new moniker. They decided on Lynyrd Skynyrd, but it was Leonard Skinnerd.
Gotcha.
So it was Lynyrd Skynyrd with the D at the end of it, to make fun of their high school gym teacher. Later, they changed the spelling of it during that album right there. Yeah. It's pronounced...
The Altwise.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's... I just got like three more.
Yeah, go for it.
The Doors. Okay. Frontman Jim Morrison took the name of the Doors from The Doors of Perception, a 1954 book by Aldous Huxley, detailed his experiences when taking mescaline.
Yeah, and Aldous Huxley also wrote Brave New World, which was one of my favorite books. Yeah. And on his deathbed, he wrote a note. He couldn't speak. He wrote a note to the doctor or his wife, I don't remember, and all it said was 120 micrograms LSD. They gave him LSD as he was dying. And the doctor who administered to him said that was the most peaceful death he had ever seen in his life.
Oh, wow. I think I remember reading that somewhere.
Crazy.
The book is considered to be one of the most profound studies of the effects of mind-expanding drugs and what they teach about how the mind works. Huxley, in turn, took the name from William Blake's The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, and the doors of perception were cleansed. Everything would appear to a man as if infinite.
Interesting. I did not know that.
For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of the cavern.
Interesting.
Def Leppard. In 1977, the band known as Atomic Mass auditioned guitarist Joe Elliott and decided that he was better suited for the role of lead singer, which is, I have to think that if you're a guitarist on a band and they go, yeah, you know what, that's good, and they take the guitar off your shoulder, and then they go, we think you would be a better singer. That's got to be a shot to your ego there. But Joe Elliott himself thought of the name Def Leppard, but it was DEAF Leopard for the rock band in his school days, and the other band members liked it. At the suggestion of drummer Tony Kenning, the name was slightly modified to the spelling that we know now in order to avoid comparison to punk bands, and perhaps also as an indirect homage to Led Zeppelin's similar styled band name.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And the last one I have is the Grateful Dead. And the name was chosen from the dictionary. Some claim it was a Funkin' Wagnalls. Others claimed it was Bardo Thodol, Tibetan Book of the Dead. But according to bassist Phil Lesh in his biography, frontman Jerry Garcia, picked up from Britannica World Language Dictionary, and that silvery elf voice, he said to me, "Hey man, how about the Grateful Dead?" And the definition there was a song meant to show the lost soul on the other side.
Interesting. I'd never, I can't say I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, so I never knew anything about that. That's
I've never had anything. I think that Jerry Garcia was passed by the time that I got into security. I could be wrong on that. But look, man, I drove fish. That's about as close.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing.
It's like Grateful Dead light.
Right, exactly. But I mean, Grateful Dead, I can't talk shit about them because they clearly, influenced a massive generation.
Oh, sure. On tour for 57 years.
Yeah. So, Jesus, yeah. I mean, and we've done an episode sort of about them, where I talked about their wall of sound and the time that they accidentally gave LSD to Hugh Hefner. And
classic.
The whole movie studio, pretty much. So, but yeah, that's it, man. You got anything else?
No, man, that's going to be it. And music history doesn't stop when our podcast ends. So the material for our podcast comes from listeners like you.
So yeah, anytime you guys have a myth or a legend you would like to hear us talk about on the show, you can find us on social media, on Facebook at Tall Tales Music Mythology, or on Twitter at T2M2 Podcast, or you can email us directly at hosts, HOSTS, at T2M2.org.
And if you want to know more about the Smarts Project and what we can do for your high school music programs, join us at our home on the web at thesmartsproject.com. And our complete department is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at randy@thesmartsproject.com. Now more than ever, be kind to each other. Tell your kids you love them while you got them. And whatever you do in life, never be a myth.
Always be a legend.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Hey everybody, John here. If you'd like to hear me rant about other topics besides just music, check out the Gluff Nation podcast, where my brother and I tackle topics from politics, pop culture, and tech trends. Find us on YouTube, and we'll be bringing our rambling diatribes to iTunes and everywhere else podcasts are available soon. Thanks for listening.